All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're jumping into a really profound 19th century Persian text, the Kitáb-i-Íqán. It's also known as the Book of Certitude, and it tries to answer a question that has echoed through human history.
So right from the get-go, the book tackles this massive paradox. For centuries, people pray for a divine teacher, they wait, they hope, and then when a messenger finally shows up, they're almost always the first ones to turn away. Why? What is going on here? And look, this isn't some new thing. The text is basically saying, hey, just look at the history books. The pattern is crystal clear and, frankly, pretty painful. Think about it. Noah was laughed at by his people. Moses was opposed by the powers that be. Jesus was denied and Muhammad was persecuted. It happens again and again and again.
So what's behind this constant rejection? Well, according to the icon, the number one reason is that people get caught in a kind of trap. They get snared by the literal meaning of words in their own sacred texts. They're stuck looking at the finger pointing to the moon, and they completely miss the moon itself.
Okay, so let's take this famous biblical prophecy as an example. When people read this, what did they expect? They expected a literal end-of-the-world cosmic catastrophe. You can just imagine them, right? Looking up at the sky, waiting for it to literally fall for a sign that was never going to come in the way they imagined. But here's where the book totally flips the script. It says, hold on, you're taking this way too literally. The sun and moon here, they aren't giant balls of gas and rock in space. They are powerful metaphors. The sun represents the previous divine messenger, while the moon and stars are the religious laws and leaders of that time. So when the scripture says they'll be darkened, it means their spiritual light, their influence, is fading to make way for a brand new day, a new revelation.
And this whole idea of reframing words, it's absolutely central to the book's argument. Terms we think we know inside and out, like heaven, earth, clouds, they all have these deeper symbolic meanings. It's not about physical events, it's about spiritual realities and the turning of a new page in human history.
So if taking scripture literally is the what, the tool of misunderstanding, the text then points a finger at the who. Who is it that most often wields this tool? Well, it's usually the established religious leaders of that age.
And wow, the Íqán does not pull any punches here. It states very directly that these leaders, these divines, all too often become the main roadblock. Instead of guiding their flock to this new pasture, they build a fence around the old one.
So the question is, why? Why do they object? According to the text, it's this really human and complicated mix of motives. For some, sure, it's about holding on to power, to their position, but for others, it's a genuine inability to see beyond their own training. They measure this new, vast ocean of truth with their own tiny cup of understanding, and of course it doesn't fit.
And the result? By insisting that their interpretation is the only interpretation, they become what the text calls the focal centers of hellish fire. It's a really intense image, right? Essentially, they block the light from the new Son of Truth and keep their followers in the dark. Okay, so the next big veil the book talks about, it's a huge one. It's our very human expectation of what power is supposed to look like. We think a messenger from God should show up with all the bells and whistles of worldly authority. The Aqán draws this super sharp line in the sand here. It says people are looking for worldly sovereignty, armies, palaces, political clout. But the real divine power, the power these messengers actually bring, is spiritual sovereignty. It's the power of their words to completely transform human hearts, to create unity out of chaos, to change the world from the inside out. People are just looking for the wrong kind of king.
And this actually brings us back to that idea of clouds. Remember the prophecies that say the messenger will come in the clouds? Well, the book argues these aren't literal clouds in the sky. They are the clouds of our own human expectations and prejudices. Things like the messenger being poor or uneducated, or get this, changing the old laws we love so much. These are the very clouds that hide their divine reality from our sight.
Okay, so you've got these veils of words, these powerful leaders, these flawed expectations. It seems impossible to see through it all, right? Well, this is where the book reframes the whole situation. It's not a flaw in the system, it's a feature. It's a divine test, designed to separate the true, sincere seekers from the blind followers.
See, this test is a necessary filter. It forces us to look past the surface, past the superficial signs, and really grapple with the essence of the new message. It's a test of our spiritual perception. It asks each of us, can you see the inner truth, even when the outer packaging is completely different from what you were told to expect?
So what's the key? How do you pass this test? The book boils it all down to one single, incredibly powerful concept: detachment.
Now, what does detachment actually mean here? It's not about being cold or uncaring. It's an active process. It means letting go of all those veils we just talked about. It's about cleaning out your spiritual and mental house, freeing your mind from secondhand opinions, purifying your heart from attachments to this world, and no longer using other people's standards to try and recognize God.
And this is the heart of the matter. The Íqán is saying that true recognition is not an academic exercise. It's not about checking boxes off an ancient list of prophecies. It's an intuitive, spiritual connection. You know the sun is the sun because you feel its warmth and see its light. You don't need an old book to prove it to you. And so, the book leaves us not just with a history lesson, but with a direct challenge. It holds up a mirror and asks us to examine the veils that might be preventing us from seeing truth in our own time. What are the clouds of expectation, of tradition, that might be obscuring our vision today? That's a question the book of Certitude leaves us with, and it's a powerful one to think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.